It's a simple coin, worth about $0.80, used for bread, taxi fare, a soft drink on a hot day. But the 500 FCFA coin also sits at the heart of one of the most controversial economic systems in the modern world, a system praised for its stability, yet condemned for its colonial legacy, a system where sovereignty and dependency are tightly interwoven. This isn't just a story of metal and markets. This is the story of economic power, who holds it, who gives it up, and who fights to take it back. In 1945, as World War II came to an end, France introduced a new currency for its African colonies, the franc des colonies françaises d'Afrique, or franc of the French colonies of Africa. It was meant to keep the empire economically tied together, a way to control inflation, direct trade, and maintain French dominance in African commerce. When African nations gained independence in the 1960s, one key question emerged. Here's how the CFA system works and why it's so controversial. There are actually two CFA francs, one for West Africa, UEMOA, one for Central Africa, CEMAC. Both are guaranteed by the French Treasury and pegged to the euro at a fixed exchange rate. Sounds good, right? Guaranteed stability, low inflation, easy convertibility. But here's the catch. To get that guarantee, African nations had to deposit up to 50% of their foreign reserves in a special account at the Banque de France. That's right. They give their money to France, so France can vouch for their money. Critics argue this arrangement means that African countries can't fully control their monetary policy. France can veto decisions at the regional level. Capital flight is encouraged, not prevented. Development is constrained by foreign priorities. As Senegalese economist Ndongo Samba Sylla put it, it's not really an African currency. It's a French currency used in Africa. Supporters disagree. They say the CFA system provides stability in a volatile region, and that giving up some autonomy in exchange for trust and access is worth it. But here's the real issue. Should African countries be paying France, financially and symbolically, just to use their own money? Let's go back to the 500 FCFA coin. On one side, it represents strong monetary policy, reliable value, a shield against inflation. But flip it, and it represents colonial continuity, limited sovereignty, a constant reminder of foreign influence. Even its very minting is controversial. Most CFA coins are not made in Africa. They're struck in France, at the Monnaie de Paris, and shipped back. Or imagine, a coin used by millions of Africans, not even made on African soil. CFA zone countries do enjoy low inflation, usually under 3%. But critics say that's not the full picture. These countries also experience slow industrial growth, over-reliance on raw exports, underdevelopment in manufacturing, chronic youth unemployment. In other words, the money is stable, but the economies are not thriving. Why? Because without control over their currency, governments can't adjust interest rates freely, devalue the currency to boost exports, respond flexibly to crises. The CFA franc is like wearing a tailored suit that can't stretch, neat, tidy, but rigid. Across West and Central Africa, protests have erupted. In Dakar, in Abidjan, in Bamako, activists, students, economists, all chanting the same demand: abolish the CFA franc. They call it the colonial franc, a currency system imposed by Europe, clung to by elites, and rejected by the youth. Not everyone wants to break free. Many African leaders argue the CFA system has kept currency stable. Investor confidence is higher in CFA countries. Sudden exits could destabilize economies. Global institutions like the IMF and World Bank often praise the CFA zone for its discipline. But critics point out, stability for whom? Foreign companies benefit from predictable exchange rates. African exporters and youth, not so much. In 2019, a new idea emerged: a single West African currency called the ECO. It would replace the CFA franc, be governed by West Africans, possibly float freely, or be pegged to a basket of African economies. The idea excited many. Finally, a currency not tied to Europe, But as of 2025, the eco remains delayed, tangled in politics, economics, and disagreements between Francophone and Anglophone countries. So where does this leave the 500 FCFA coin? It's still widely used. In shops, in schools, on buses. It's trusted, familiar, and enduring. But it's also contested. To some, it's a symbol of modern African finance. To others, a relic of neocolonial power. Its real value, not just in what it buys, but in what it represents. If you can't control your currency, can you truly call yourself independent? If your money is minted overseas, if your reserves are held abroad, if your economy is built on someone else's terms, what does sovereignty really mean? These are the questions that swirl around the humble. 500 FCFA coin, a coin light, enough to carry in your pocket, yet heavy with historical weight. The 500 FCFA coin once symbolized Africa's place in a post-colonial financial order. But today, a new revolution is brewing. Not in government halls, not in central banks, but in the pockets of everyday people. Welcome to the digital age, where coins are fading and codes are rising. Where African innovation isn't just catching up with the world, it's starting to lead it. This is the story of how Africa's money, and perhaps its very economic independence, is being rewired for the 21st century. Africa didn't follow the global path of banking. In many places, traditional banking failed to reach the masses. Long queues, high fees, little trust. But out of necessity came invention. In 2007, Kenya launched a quiet revolution with M-Pesa, a mobile payment system that let users send money using just SMS. The results? Explosive. By 2025, over 600 million Africans use some form of mobile money. That's more than any other continent. In Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Cameroon, mobile money far exceeds bank usage. Even in CFA zone countries where the 500 FCFA coin still reigns, people are moving digital. The 500 FCFA coin is still everywhere, in pockets, in shops, in taxes. But mobile money is challenging its dominance. It's faster, safer, traceable, and requires no physical change. Yet, there's a paradox. The 500 FCFA coin is government-issued, controlled, and regulated. Mobile money is increasingly run by private companies, many of them foreign-owned. Orange, MTN Wave, Airtel. Are we moving from government currencies to a world dominated by corporate ones? And what does that mean for sovereignty? As we explored earlier, the ECO was supposed to be West Africa's answer to the CFA, a new, independent, African-run currency. But despite big announcements in 2019, the ECO has not materialized. Political disagreements, divergent economies, COVID-19, all played a part. Now, some experts are asking, if we can't agree on a shared coin, could we build a shared digital currency? A Pan-African e-wallet? A regional stablecoin? These ideas are no longer science fiction. Enter the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, a CBDC is issued by a government, regulated by a central bank, backed by national reserves. Nigeria was the first African country to launch one, the e-Naira in 2021. Though adoption has been slow, the message is clear. Governments want to digitize cash, including coins like the 500 FCFA. Imagine a world where you tap your phone to pay 500 FCFA for bread. No coin ever changes hands. Every transaction is instant, traceable, and secure. It's coming. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. But while governments are exploring digital control, citizens are exploring digital freedom. In places like Ghana, Togo, Benin, Senegal, cryptocurrency adoption is rising fast, not as a replacement for daily spending, yet, but for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins like USDT are quietly being used, even in places where the CFA franc still dominates. In the eyes of some youth, crypto is what CFA never was, truly independent, borderless, and modern. But let's not forget, in rural areas, coins like the 500 FCFA still rule. There's no mobile coverage, no electricity to charge phones, no digital literacy. So while the cities go cashless, the countryside still clinks with coins. The digital future is uneven. And the 500 FCFA coin? It might outlive predictions. Not because it's efficient, but because it's accessible. So what happens to a symbol like the 500 FCFA coin? In a world without physical money? Will it fade away? Or will it be reborn, digitally? Some artists and designers believe the coin still has cultural value. Its shape, its texture, its history. What if it returned as a digital collectible? An NFT? A virtual tipping token? The point is, money isn't just economic. It's emotional, cultural, and symbolic. And the 500 FCFA coin, for better or worse, still means something. From a colonial tool, to a symbol of independence, to a player in the digital shift. The journey of the 500 FCFA coin is nothing short of epic. And now, Africa faces a choice. Be users of someone else's digital system, or be creators of their own. Already, African fintech startups are building payment gateways, remittance apps, blockchain-based ID systems, local stablecoins. This is no longer a fight between France and Africa. It's a race between African visionaries and global tech giants. And the outcome will define who controls Africa's money in the next century. So here we are. The 500 FCFA coin. A relic, a survivor, or a symbol waiting to be transformed. A coin is small. It fits in your pocket. It weighs just a few grams. But the 500 FCFA coin carries the weight of history. In its metal lies the story of empires, resistance, compromise, and hope. This is not just the story of a currency. It's the story of identity, of legacy, of who gets to decide what value is, and who gets to own the future. Ask someone what money is, and you'll hear. It's how I pay rent. It's how I feed my kids. It's how I send my brother to school. But money is never just money. It's trust. It's power. It's a social contract. And in the case of the FCFA, it's also a symbol of political dependency or regional unity, depending on who you ask. So we ask again, what does this coin really represent? A connection to France? A betrayal of independence? A stable economy? A broken promise? The answer isn't simple, because Africa's relationship with money, like its history, is complex, layered, and still unfolding. That's why we put presidents, heroes, and poets on our money. That's why national currencies become icons of identity. But the 500 FCFA coin? It doesn't feature African freedom fighters. It doesn't celebrate regional culture. It was designed, minted, and controlled for decades by outsiders. What does that say to a child who uses it daily? That economic power is foreign? That stability requires external approval? Even now, some West Africans see the CFA franc as a colonial relic. Others see it as practical, better than inflation, better than chaos. But what everyone agrees on is this: Africa deserves the right to choose. To be fair, the CFA franc has offered something rare in parts of Africa: stability, low inflation, stable exchange rates, predictable imports and exports. Compared to countries like Zimbabwe or Sudan, that's no small thing. The FCFA coin has bought peace of mind, especially for the urban middle class. But at what cost? Export controls, monetary policy set in Europe, billions in reserves held abroad, limited industrial growth. Some say the CFA has kept Africa stable but stagnant, safe but small. From Burkina Faso to Mali to Senegal, a new generation is asking, why are we still using this coin? This isn't just an economic debate. It's a cultural reckoning. Thomas Sankara called the CFA a colonial trap. Kwame Nkrumah dreamed of a unified African currency. Protesters today chant for monetary sovereignty like it's a birthright. These voices aren't anti-European. They are pro-African. They want money that reflects African values, African heroes, African dreams. Not coins designed in foreign boardrooms, but currencies born from continental vision. Change is coming, not just in form, but in function. The Africa of the future is interconnected, digitally empowered, economically integrated, The AFCFTA is building a $3.4 trillion trade zone. The African Union is investing in cross-border infrastructure. Young developers are coding payment systems in Lagos, Nairobi, Kigali. The 500 FCFA coin may still clink in our hands today, but tomorrow's money will flow through wires, between countries, and across cultures. Africa is writing a new script, and money will no longer be a footnote, it will be a chapter heading. If the 500 FCFA coin could talk, what stories would it tell? Of colonial officials in suits, drawing borders and policies? Of merchants in open-air markets, counting their earnings? Of elders saving coins in jars for their grandchildren's future? It's more than a coin. It's a witness. To coups and constitutions. To poverty and progress. To betrayal and to resilience. And whether it disappears tomorrow or remains for decades, its story is now forever African. The coin you hold in your hand may be just metal, but the value you assign to it, the story you give it, that is power. The 500 FCFA coin is a symbol, but symbols evolve, and so does Africa. From chains to change, from metal to memory, from foreign-made coins to self-made futures. The choice is not whether Africa will change its money. The choice is whether Africa will define that change on its own terms.